Hello and welcome to Rural Rules, marketing magic for the middle of nowhere. My name is Corinne Hurt. I'm with the University of Southern Indiana, and today we're going to be talking about marketing and public relations in rural schools. Why does marketing matter? Well, why does marketing matter to companies? It matters because having good marketing and a positive public relations is going to increase your bottom line, right? So 9 times out of 10, the better your marketing is, the more people know about you, the more people are talking about you, the more positively people feel about you, the more money you're going to make, the more attention you're going to draw. And at the end of the day, a school is a business, right? We're bringing in revenue, we have costs, we have return on investment, just like any other business does. So why would we skimp on marketing and public relations? Effective marketing strategies for us are going to be crucial in driving student enrollment, ensuring sustainability, and fostering equity. So, when we were kind of trying to figure out, does marketing and public relations matter? Who does it matter to? Why is it important? What role does it even play? We conducted some interviews, and now during these interviews, we interviewed 3 people. We tried to interview 4. We had one cancel. But during these interviews, we found that the only school that we interviewed that was closed enrollment due to meeting capacity was the only school that had a marketing person. So I think that underscores the critical role that marketing does have in the education space. Now, funny enough, the school that did have the marketing person is also a school that we interviewed that is a private charter school. So, of course, they have the funding for a marketing person. That's not super surprising, but we can't operate on a scarcity mentality, right? We can't say, well, we're never going to hire a marketing person because we can't afford it. Well, we might not ever be able to afford it until we hire a marketing person. So, I really want to utilize agile project management through the scope of this, kind of rollout. And we're going from cornfields to clicks with agile, by the way. Uh, so agile is interesting, right? Agile is typically used for things that are in the marketing and tech space, but agile as a whole is a framework that can be implemented across varying departments. So not only is this project marketing focused, but this is an agile focused process or project. And if this goes well on this particular, task or outcome, this type of framework can be implemented across varying departments. So this is almost kind of a meta pilot inside of our pilot that's like, is agile right for our school at the same time? What is agile? So it's a flexible iterative approach to project management that emphasizes adaptive change, continuous improvement, and collaboration across needs and feedback. So agile is ideal for us because it focuses on flexibility, iterative processes, and then stakeholder collaboration. So agile is not meant to be a gotcha. It's not meant to be like, oh my gosh, look at all these things we've done in the past that didn't go well. It's not meant to be like, oh my gosh, look, you didn't turn this in. It's not meant to be that way. Agile is meant to hold everyone accountable, but be low stress. And it's meant to be low stress because you'll see coming up, there are already changes, mistakes, problems accounted for in the plan. So we already know things are going to go wrong, right? We're all human. We all make errors. Nothing goes, nothing ever goes right the first time. It never goes exactly how you expect the first time. So this is really meant to be a low stress experimental project. We are just really trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. Things don't work all the time. So we're going to run this agile project in 3 months, 6 sprints, and one goal, which is to improve our marketing and public relations. So I do have our 3 months up here. Month 1 is planning and initial implementation. Month 2 is implementation and monitoring. Month 3 is refinement and optimization. Now, in each of these, like I said, we have 6 sprints. So we're going to have the kickoff and stakeholder sprint, the develop initial marketing strategy sprint, the launch the full scale sprint, the data collection and review sprint. Now you'll notice these last 2 sprints are starting to kind of run into each other because this is when we're starting to close up the project. This is when we're starting to kind of look at each other and look around and be go, oh my God, what was the last 2 months? What did go well? What didn't go well? This is when we're kind of we're catching our footing in the whirlwind a little bit and figuring out what we're going to do going forward. So don't let those last couple of sprints stress you out. There's not going to be a lot of tasks going on simultaneously. It's that they're just it's more of a logical progression in this point of the game. So first, let's talk about month one, sprint one. This is our kickoff and stakeholder engagement sprint. So really simple: hire, recruit, meet, and define. We're going to hire a designated marketing professional first of all. This can be somebody that we promote internally. If we have a teacher that is a really good brand ambassador for us already, we might want to consider just bringing them on. If not, that's okay. Maybe we want to do an external hire, but ideally this should be somebody that has K-12 experience or marketing experience in the public space. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about somebody who's worked maybe for a politician or a local political party or a 501c3, people who are used to handling media communication. Now, it's very likely there is going to be some sort of public relations initiative or a crisis or some sort of public initiative that we're going to need parent buy-in on or something like that, right? You're not going to want that person to be terrified to give commentary to the media, right? You don't want them to be intimidated by this process. So it needs to be somebody who is used to putting content out on a large scale to the public in kind of a civic role, I would say. I mean, you could hire a marketing professional that has been in business, but the less training and the less gap that we have to meet, the better, obviously. The easier the onboarding, the better, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So next, we're going to recruit people for our agile team. So we're going to identify school administrators and teachers, maybe even community representatives that will add value to our team and recruit them. Why should they care about our school? Why should they be a part of our team? Well, let's say there's a local business owner here in town. He sponsors the Little League team. A lot of parents, shop at his store, and he's just kind of genuinely interested. And he knows, a lot of these kids work for him in the summer, whatever his reason is. Recruit him, bring him in. We need diverse perspectives and diverse stakeholders on this team because the most effective marketing campaigns are going to involve the most stakeholders because they're effective because the most people care are interacting with them, right? So next we're going to conduct our initial meeting. So now we have our team. Now we've met our people. Now we know who our cheerleading team is going to be for woohoo, our school, right? We're going to start conducting those initial meetings and gathering insights from them. What brought them here? Why did they want to be a member? What do they hope to get out of the project? The more team members we have with common goals and expectations, the easier our time is going to be and a lot more clear and defined our campaigns are going to be. Which actually leads me to my next one, which is define. We're also going to be defining those key metrics and the success criteria. So in short, what data do we care about? What are we going to be using going forward? This charter school, they didn't care about enrollment because they're full, but they might want to launch a new website and they might want a bunch of website clicks, right? But maybe our school does care about enrollment. Maybe our school has it all together, but man, for some reason, we have a really poor parent satisfaction. Whatever our issue may be, let's start kind of defining what are our metrics? What does success look like in this campaign? What numbers should we be looking at to ensure return on investment? Month one, sprint two. So we're going to start developing that initial marketing strategy. So again, we're starting fresh. So we don't have to spend time going, oh my God, okay, so what campaign did we do in the past and how many clicks did it get? And what did we do? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let's start a campaign that is relevant to what we are doing today, that is toward a goal that is important to us today. We can find this by, reflecting on the unique strengths of our school, by reflecting on what makes our school special. What can they get here that they can't get anywhere else? And, once you kind of have that conversation, that initial campaign might be super, super clear, or you might have to do some digging. It just kind of depends. But, regardless, no stress. You're going to launch an initial campaign and we're going to review the results when we get there. The next thing we're going to do this week in Sprint 2 is we're going to start inventorying our current platforms, accounts, and assets. So what is our digital footprint, right? How big is it? What are all the logins? Where do they all belong? You need to have everything pretty accessible. Do you launch videos on YouTube? You're probably going to need to learn how to get into YouTube and figure out where those passwords and account information is. Um, do you, let's say you're a charter school and a lot of your parents are high income. You might want to consider starting a LinkedIn if you don't already have one, right? So, really, this is just kind of where you're taking notice of where you're currently at. What do you currently have at your disposal? And is it up to date and is it accurate? So next, you're going to implement that pilot campaign, and ideally, I would do something around the community. It's something you're going to want to get out to the community. It doesn't have to be a community focused per se, but it's going to be something that you're going to want to get out to the community. Whether it's, let's say, you want to put it on Facebook and in the newspaper, but I do recommend for this initial campaign you do something around community involvement because again, we want to get the most success and the most buy-in out of this initial campaign as possible because we want to have a realistic view of what to expect going forward. Now, next to this final point, and this could look a lot different depending on who we hire, right? So, develop customized training for the marketing professionals. Um, let's say we hire somebody internally. We're not going to need to train them on our internal school systems and how to clock in and who they're about. We're not going to need to train them on that, right? But chances are we might need to train them on how to use Business Suite on Facebook or have them do some Facebook Business Suite training. Or maybe they need to do some we want to send them to some marketing continuing education classes, whatever that may be. We need to make sure that person is trained and has the resources they need to be successful. Let's say we hire a marketing professional that knows everything there is to know about marketing. They're Google Analytics certified, they got all the things, but they have no idea about our school. Well, this is probably around the time when they're going to want to figure out what makes us tick, figure out the heartbeat of the school, figure out the story of the school, and figure out how the school runs. So again, this kind of training is it's going to be very tailored to the person that we hire. So next we're looking at month 2, sprint 1. So we're going to take that initial pilot campaign and we might launch it. We might not. Right? We're just going to go full scale with it. We're sending it. So we're gonna meet. We're gonna review that initial campaign. What went well, what didn't. Now, let's say we sent out the campaign. Let's say we launched that. We had that new website, built. So we're just trying to get some clicks on it. Let's say we had 640 clicks in an hour. Well, I would consider that a success, wouldn't you? So let's say we're gonna roll that exact campaign out to other schools. Let's say we had a bunch of people, we launched that new website over the summer and we had 650 clicks in an hour and parents are now logging in and they're now pre-buying tickets to our sporting events. And now they're going in and they're checking grades and they're starting to go onto the faculty pages and they're starting to go ahead and schedule calendar meetings for their students' teachers on their own. Let's say we have a really good success from that, but let's piggyback off of that. Let's start rolling that out to our other schools in our district. Let's say that pilot absolutely tanked. Well, let's not do that again, right? Let's completely pivot. Let's avoid everything that didn't go well in that first sprint. Let's create a new campaign. But regardless, we're going to launch it full scale and we're going to go from there. Again, it's no stress. It's no stress. It's totally fine. Whatever goes wrong, we can probably fix it. We're going to be leveraging the feedback from our agile team on that pilot program so we can optimize strategies and performance going forward. So, and then again, we're just going to facilitate cross-school collaboration. Now, depending on what this scaling looks like, this might be a good time to create a marketing and PR best practices. So right around this time, your marketing person's a month in. They're either like, okay, I can start adding some tasks and deliverables to my role. I can start expanding a little bit. Or they're going to start coming back to you and they're like, okay, I've only been doing this for administration. I don't have the capacity to handle this for all of our schools. And at that point, that person might come to you and say, hey, I'm going to have to hire a content creator, or I'm going to have to hire a web developer, or whatever it may be. But regardless, when your team scales, you're going to need a code of conduct or a best practices to implement that. It's also important to just have a set of best practices because it creates cohesion across your brand, right? You want to always be using the same colors. You want to always be using the same kind of tagline and language. You want your brand to start feeling very familiar with people. And the best way to do that is create marketing and PR best practices and making sure that everyone follows them in your organization. So next we're going to move on to the data piece, right? This is the part that I'm like, oh yeah, now we're getting into it. we've kind of talked like hypothetically about data previously, but we haven't really dug into it up until this point. So we're going to start really analyzing like what data do we care about? What data is going to ensure a return on investment? We could look at, enrollment rates, community engagement, parent satisfaction, public perception. There's all kinds of things we can analyze. Um, we're going to review that with the stakeholders, right? We want transparency in data. How are our stakeholders going to give us effective feedback if they don't have any transparency in outcomes, previously and going forward, right? So, with that being said, numbers on a spreadsheet, they don't just like tell a story on their own. You need to tell the story. And one way to do that is through advanced analytics. So you can utilize a platform like Tableau to use that data and create dashboards. That can be a lot more digestible for your agile team. Let's say you have an old school guy who he's like, hey, send me 2 sentences about what the data is in a narrative. It might be beneficial to do that, right? So you need to kind of figure out a commonality amongst your stakeholders on what kind of data are we going to be looking at? How is this data going to be presented in a way that makes sense to us and that is actually giving us realistic insights? So month 3, I went ahead and did do sprint 1 and 2 together. Like I said, this is when things are going to start feeling a little, okay, we're in it now. Now we know what we're doing. Now we know who we are. Now we're a well-oiled machine, right? So we're going to refine. We're going to start adjusting those marketing strategies. What worked, what didn't. By this point, um, maybe we've had a campaign around getting more people into the lacrosse game. Maybe we've had more website clicks and we have more people going in and checking their students' grades. And, maybe we have those things. Maybe there are some things that are still a huge priority, but our campaigns haven't performed well and we can't figure out why. Maybe our keywords aren't very good. Whatever those may be, this is going to be right around the time. This is going to be really the biggest part in the process where we really start looking back and we're like, okay, what went well, what didn't. Again, this isn't a what did we do wrong? Oh my God, this is just we're starting to tell ourselves the story. And the outcomes of these campaigns are really starting to fill in some of your blanks. It might even be beneficial for you to have a piece of paper that's like, what is our story about, our gifted kids? What story are we telling about them? What story are we telling about our lacrosse team? And anytime you gather a little tidbit of insight, you just add that over to your, maybe it's an Excel document, but start telling a story. Everything needs to have a story. If people only connect with things when there's a story involved. And the story, chances are, probably has to relate to them or they're not going to care, right? But this is when you're really going to go in and you're going to start refining those campaigns, identifying gaps, and increasing effectiveness by telling the story. You're going to also start enhancing your digital and social media presence at this point. So by now, you're really going to want to start trying to focus on increasing follower count, increasing website visits, like not just putting out good content, but you can put out the best content, but if people aren't seeing it, they're not seeing it. It doesn't matter. So you need to focus on the long-term sustainability and you're going to need traffic. Like I said, you can create the most amazing piece, but if there's no traffic going to it, it's pointless. So you really need to balance that, you know, really good content creation and thought leadership type content creation, but also really going after those clicks and followers and really trying to build an audience that's engaged. An engaged audience is key. Creating content for your audience is ideal. Next, you're going to review and create a comprehensive campaign outcome. So this is really going to be like the end of our project charter. Like, guys, this is what we did. This is what we learned. This is what went well. It's really going to be like a project recap that every member can go back and reflect on and look at. Let's say this campaign was super successful. I'm going to be an optimist and say that it is going to be. You might want to consider creating a case study on this to send around to other districts or other, sister schools or whatever the case may be, because you want your school to be like the thought leader, right? You want them to be the school that's like, oh, that's the school that has it together. That's the school. If you want to know how to run effective marketing, I'd ask them. They're doing pretty good work down there, right? So you might want to do a case study. You might want to say, we launched, we hired a developer, launched a website in the summertime, in the fall, we hired a marketing professional who was able to drive this amount of traffic to our page. As a result, we saw this increase in percentage of parents scheduling meetings. This case study can be whatever you need it to be. But I would recommend consider doing a case study because it's a great way to get buy-in for other departments. It's a great way to get buy-in on agile. It's a great way to get buy-in on public relations. It's just a great way to get buy-in on a variety of topics. Now, let's say it didn't go well, then don't do the case study. You saved yourself some work. It's not a big deal. Don't do it. You still need to do a legitimate, honest review of the project. Next is also really going to be looking into resource allocation, right? Because chances are we can float somebody for a couple of months and not have it impact our bottom line too much. But now we're going to have to pay this marketing person for an entire year, and the year after that, and the year after that. And maybe that marketing person spread pretty thin. So we're going to have to hire a part-time person too. How feasible is this, right? Like, what was the return on investment from what we've done thus far? Maybe we really need to work in the budget. We really want to, we had really good success running a Google ad for the upcoming play. Do we have it in our budget to run Google ads? Can we build in a $100 a month Google budget to use with whatever, and whatever doesn't get used just gets dispersed back to the sport department? Whatever that may be, we're going to start looking at the numbers. How can we afford this going forward? And can we afford to be without it is really the more important question. And chances are probably not. So it's really going to be more about like how and not can. And then next is just future planning. So developing a plan for ongoing marketing efforts and future iterations based on agile principles. So again, we're just going to keep running these agile sprints. Now, you don't have to stay. Like, let's say your agile team, let's say they've been meeting weekly, and you could probably go to like every 2 weeks, and that's fine. Or let's say maybe you could do monthly and you just want to send them like a recap every week of what you've been working on. I think a monthly is too far apart. I think ideally every 2 weeks is a great way to 30 minutes every 2 weeks is a great way to get all of your agile team members to stay bought in and to stay engaged and to get responses in a realistic time, but not give them too much of a time burden, if that makes sense. So ideally, I would do 2 week sprints. This is set up in 2 week sprints, but after those initial 3 months, you can do a sprint cycle that works for you. It might also make sense to add people to your agile team at this point. It might make sense to cut people from your agile team at this point. You might start looking around and you're like, basically every campaign we did geared toward parents failed. Maybe we need to get some parents on our agile team, right? There's a lot of interpretations you can do with this project. You'll notice I didn't do anything concrete. I didn't say, okay, on this day, we need to do a lacrosse post on Facebook. On this day, we need to encourage parents to log into the parent portal and see grades on LinkedIn. I didn't do that because I don't know. And, nobody does, right? That's why this is kind of meant to be it's meant to be specific to your school. It's meant to be tailored. It's meant to be changing. It's meant to be very fluid and ongoing, and nothing is super concrete because that's how the world is nowadays. That's how digital space is. What's hot 1 minute isn't hot the next. What's really, really, what platform is super, getting a lot of traction right now is TikTok. But you're not marketing to kids, right? So maybe a TikTok doesn't make sense, but maybe you're trying to get more students into your gifted and talented program. Maybe you want students to know how fun the cross country team is. So maybe you do want to use a TikTok, right? This is just future planning. This is like things we kind of want. This is our wish list. This is anything you want it to be, as long as you're planning for the future using what we have learned thus far. Now, I know we've gone through a lot so far. I've done a lot of talking, but if you're somebody who just likes to see the deliverables on paper, here you go. Here's all the deliverables month by month. The first 3 are for week 1 and 2. The last 3, the first 3 are the first 2 weeks of the month, and the last 3 are the last 2 weeks of the month. So you'll see month 1, there's your deliverables. Month 2, there's your deliverables. And month 3, there's your deliverables. Easy peasy. Again, I just want to reiterate that agile is it's structured. It's meant to provide structure, but it's not meant to be a gotcha. It's meant to hold you accountable. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be adapted. It's meant to be tailored. And it's really meant to help you scale projects that may otherwise be difficult to scale. So if we do find some success in this in our department, I do strongly encourage other departments to potentially use Agile as well. But this just kind of goes to show again that this project isn't just talking. This isn't just teaching us about marketing and public relations. This is also teaching us more effective means to manage outcomes going forward. Thank you so much for your attention today. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about anything that you have heard, or if you would like any sort of marketing advice or would like me to take a look at anything for you, please shoot me an email to chpollard@eagles.usi.edu. Thank you again for your time.